Hello cookies, it's Siri. I am back and today we're going to talk about Sid Meier's Civilization 6, Into the Breach and Battle Chasers Nightwar. What do they have in common? Baby, this game is actually super good for an old game.
What is an old game?
It was released in 2018.
That's not old.
It is old!
It's not old, no.
You're just saying that because you're old.
Wow.
And that's one of the first things they have in common. They were all released in 2018. To me, that's freaking old. As someone trying to get the best value for money, if an old game has slightly better reviews than a newer game, I would usually get the newer game. It makes total sense because I expect the graphics to be much better because it's newer tech, better sound, no bugs, and I also assume that the devs would have more time to learn from the mistakes of other games in the niche categories, so the game will be more polished because it will be based on a longer history of trial and errors, right? That was me until the end of 2023. I reflected like everyone else who plays. There are so many of the games that I played in 2023 videos out there. So I also reflected on the games that I played and I realized that most of the games that were released in 2023 that I got were, in my opinion, garbage. Just so bad. Peabod, thoughts? I agree. Octopath Traveler 2 is an exception and I absolutely adore that game. It helped me through tough times in my life and I just really love it. Now it has climbed in my top 5 absolute favorite games of all times, even counting the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance and all the other consoles. Octopath Traveler 2 is just a freaking gem. Everything else was pretty meh. Nota bene, I am currently playing Star Ocean, the second story R, and Dragon Quest Monsters, the Dark Prince. I loved the demos and got them at the end of the year, but since I am playing in 2024, I don't count them in my favorite games of 2023 and of Nota bene. Before you send me to the pillory, I still love games on the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Nintendo DS, Nintendo 3DS that I have over there. Getting myself a Game Boy Advance SP secondhand and Pokemon Emerald also secondhand is one of my motivations to finish this sustainability specialist education I am suffering through. The subject is great, but the school environment I don't love that much. So it's not that I hate retro games. Also, every time someone uses the word retro to qualify the Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance and all those other consoles, I feel extremely old. Just the same way as they say vintage games or vintage cards for Pokemon cards. It's not freaking vintage, it's my youth. I'm not having any ageism prejudice against retro vintage games. It's just towards the Switch, as in towards Switch games, and I have no idea why. Maybe it's just because I expect more out of tech nowadays. I remember when the Nintendo DS came out and I just could not believe you could do touchscreen games. For me, that was mind-blowing. And to this day, it's still one of my favorite gaming memories, just trying the Nintendo DS for the first time and having it touchscreen. Oh, that for me is just one of those precious memories. But maybe because I got the Switch as an adult, paying for my games, I paid for my Nintendo DS myself and for another card, as in the one back then. Now it's re-released. I'm not sure if I will get it because I don't want it to be messed up in my memories. No pun intended, because it's another code to memories that was really not intended and it's not part of the script. For some weird reason, I just expect higher things from Switch games. Civilization 6 is a strategy game about building an empire. And this was me finally destroying Roosevelt after he snuck up on me out of nowhere and just attacked. It took forever as I was not prepared for war, but as they say, revenge is a dish best served cold. It's always just one more turn and then you notice you made 400 glorious turns. Into the Breach has you control mechs, freaking cool giant robots with weapons that go boom, 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 boom to defeat alien threats. It's like chess, but with cool robots. You need to think through your turns and plan your strategy to keep your range of motion, weapon powers, and enemy moves into account. You have 5 turns to win or lose, or kind of win, but not get extra bonuses. And if you play the game, you need those bonuses. I can spend 15 minutes playing through scenarios in my head before making a single move. Battle Chasers Nightwar is a story-driven RPG with dungeon crawling and freaking cool attack animations. I also love when the controllers vibrate when I unleash strong attacks. It makes me so happy every time. It's also a beautiful game to play, even though it took me more than 80 hours of play to finally figure out how on earth to change fishing rods, fishing bait, and to actually fish. It's a super satisfying game. Those games have one thing in common, and it's the fact that they are epic games. The graphics are all different but suit my preferences. The music is pleasant and the specs are perfect for Into the Breach and great to acceptable for both Civ 6 and Battle Chasers Nightwar. Those last two tend to lag a bit for me towards the end of the campaign or the end of the game. I haven't seen any bugs in Civilization 6 and Into the Breach, and only experienced one in a late game dungeon in Battle Chasers Nightwar. The concepts of those 3 games aren't dated either, they are just timeless. So I realized that games that have been on the shelves for a while tend to work better for me, even just in terms of patches and, most importantly, reviews available. I have saved myself so much money whenever I researched properly before making a purchase. I researched the newly released games too, but most reviews are usually of people who want to flex their review codes and want to get more of them. So they don't want to upset the devs and want to show potential sponsors and review code senders that they will nicely promote their games. I learned the hard way not to trust initial reviews anymore. An example of a game I am glad I waited for is Potion Permit. I have been waiting and looking for more and more reviews. Then I saw on Reddit 2 weeks ago that someone mentioned the weird stuttering on the screen, to which another Redditor confirmed they had the same issue. I deleted the game from my wishlist straight away, despite it being on there even before the official release. Anything affecting the visual quality, either blurriness or in this case instability, is a total deal breaker for me. I get weird in the stomach. Applying the put in the cart and letting it simmer strategy that I have for general purchases works for games too. I often realize that I did not want a game, I was just sad or hungry or both. From now on, I will keep on downloading demos of games I might like, and for the rest I will wait for patches, honest reviews, or for when I am not feeling down anymore. Also, did you know you could get Switch games from the library? That's how I am testing if I'm interested in Fire Emblem games. If I finish the game, I don't have to buy it. If I don't finish it and want it, I can look secondhand. It's often cheaper too. And even if they're not secondhand, they can be heavily discounted. When I go to MediaMarkt just to browse around, I see the old games and they usually have 25% off, 30% off, sometimes even 50%. And before I used to think just looking at the back, oh, release 2018, 2019, oh no, not really, maybe that's why it's discounted wrong. I was so freaking wrong. So now next time I go to MediaMarkt or Saturn or all those gaming stores here in Germany, I will be looking very closely at at the heavily discounted stuff because there might be some really good gems in there. And for someone who wanted to be an archaeologist and an Egyptologist for the longest time, and I will hopefully do that when I retire just as a hobby, finding and digging for old sweet treasures actually doesn't sound too bad. Finally, I'm trying to find friends who will hopefully play games with me and loan each other cartridges or even just let me try the games they own. And that's the story of how I went from wasting money and SD card space on lousy games upon release or quickly after release to still spending money on games, let's face it, but better on better games that I actually really enjoy. I still use up SD card space, obviously, but on better games too, so it's not so annoying. I don't have to go and archive, go think, should I archive, should I keep? And that's it for me today, cookies. I wish you a happy new year with lots of health. That's the most important thing. Happiness, success, and I will see you very soon. Bye. Look at this. Last window. Oh, so cool. Look at this. My favorite game. Octopath. No. This I have. Oh, that is so cool. Oh, this as well. Look at this. She making me dance. It's crazy. Ooh, they have the Kingdom Hearts one. It's Battle Jesus. They have it too. This I'm taking.
But that is not the... That's the round pedal one, turn-based. Warriors is the one where you run around and smash stuff.
Yeah, but I want to borrow this to try. This one for sure. With my hat I look ridiculous.